Hey guys, it's Mountain Walk, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about the Commander ban list. Yep, we're going to be looking at it and seeing what we can see. I'm going to be examining it, going to be taking a new approach this time. So let's get into it. All right, so a little bit different. Going to be ranking them S to F. So S should be banned, F is should not be banned. And then, of course, all sorts of other ratings, uh, in between, right? Sort of spectrum. Maybe secret ratings, right? So, like, the best way to think about it is like if a card is rated like a C, be like, well, it's, probably powerful in some respects. Maybe it's a combo piece, right? But, it takes work to get it to function, or, just because of the nature of the format. That kind of thing makes it more difficult to pull off. So yeah. Also, we're going to be talking about like banned as a commander. That would obviously make more sense for some of these cards. So it's very complex. Lots of different factors of why something's banned, right? So Power 9 and stuff would be banned for other reasons than like, uh, limited resources is banned versus something like Coalition Victory. Like there's all sorts of different reasons, right? So it's very complex. So that's why I tried to do something a little bit more in depth, a little more uh, nuanced, I guess we'll say. So there's a bunch of cards on here, so let's just get into it. All right. So obviously, Power 9 rares from Alpha Beta Unlimited. Like I just said, like these should obviously be banned. There's huge problems with like how people just wouldn't want to play the format. I think it really ruins it, right? Because like even if almost every single player you'll ever play against will never have one of these cards in their deck, it does make the format seem too uninviting, I think, especially for like what is supposed to be a casual format. I think that's fine, right? Like I think that the power and prestige and sort of that sort of factor. For example, I can never play a wheel deck, right? Because Time Twister is legal. Because I'll always think it like in the back of my head, it's like, shoot, this deck could even be better, right? But I'll never have a Time Twister because I'm not paying that much to play this card in my deck. But so yeah. Also, Time Vault is sort of the same thing, but obviously its combo with Voltaic Key is just completely stupid, like a colorless like 2 mana win the game kind of thing. Like yeah, that's clearly out of bounds. Out of bounds. I mean, it's even a stupid combo even in um, like Vintage, right, where everything is just busted. But that's just like particularly stupid. And of course, Library is pretty ridiculous in a format that's like can be pretty slow. And again, also worth a bajillion dollars. And of course, it's not Power 9. Back in the day, it was called like sort of lumped in with the Power 9, right? Power 10. And same thing with Time Vault, which was due to its errata, it was in and out, so to speak. But anyways, yeah. So I think these obviously should be banned. I think they make the format just way less better, way less better. Um, and then Time Twister obviously just should be banned too. Like this is just it's too expensive. It's too ridiculous. So yeah. Now otherwise I'll be able to actually play wheel decks, right? I'll be like, oh yeah, that's fine. So yeah, I'll be like, oh, I can play it now because I don't have to spend $30,000 on a unlimited beat to crap Time Twister. And anyways, let's move on. All right, you got balance. Yeah, this is obviously probably the most like effect wise. This is probably the most broken card. It's very easy to make it like asymmetrical, right? With just building your deck around artifacts and enchantments and stuff. As well as things like obviously this was created a little bit before Planeswalkers, so it doesn't mention those. So yeah, this thing is really nutty. It's just too easy to break it. It's too easy to recur. It's too cheap. Its effect is way too big. I mean, it just ends games on the spot. Like it doesn't even matter. Like I mean, it basically nukes any board position whether you're ahead, it's insane. Whether you're behind, it's insane. Like, it's too easy to build your deck around. It already like pushes decks that are already too good. I mean, it's just, yeah, too easy. So I think it's fine. It's banned, even though I like I like balance. But also, I hope you guys have some coffee or something. Drinking some coffee is good for you. A little bit of coffee is okie dokie. All right, let's move on. All right, now we got Biorhythm. Biorhythm is, well, it's, I don't know. I mean, I guess there's a lot of different, as like a purely like, is this card like that powerful? I mean, obviously 8 mana to sometimes win the game, right? But it can, I guess it could feel like it sort of unfairly like makes games ends them right before they even really get started. It's not like it's hard to produce mana in green, but even still, I mean, it's like 8 mana sorcery. This is the kind of thing that can backfire. Like, you know, if you're playing against like a token deck or something, like, I mean, they're gonna have not only gonna have a pile of dudes, right? So they'll have like a fairly large life total, but I mean, you're gonna have less life than them, and they're gonna be able to throw all their guys at you. So it's like, yeah. So I think this thing is sufficiently risky to even play in general. Like there can be just a lot of problems with this and just even being good. But on the other hand, it can like sort of ruin games, I guess, or you'd be used to grief, like with like just casting it after a wrath or something, like to just like haha, like we all die kind of thing. I mean, maybe, but yeah, I don't even think I would play this in a lot of my decks, so I don't know. Um, Pretty, yeah, yeah, 8 mana is a lot, so yeah, it's basically C minus D plus. There's a little bit there that I kind of don't like and can kind of see why it is banned, but there's a whole lot that I'm just like, who cares? This isn't even close to like, you know, like say like something like a Cyclonic Rift, or something like that, right? So yeah. All right, Braids. So as a commander and then also as just a card by itself, um, like it's basically a worse smokestack, right? So like maybe its rating for just in the 99 should be a lot lower. Um, but as a commander, it could, yeah, obviously you can get it out on turn 3 or 4 more often and pretty consistently, right? But unless you have like other stuff going on, like some sort of recursion engine like Life in the Loam or Crucible or something, like it's going to be hard to really support this. I mean, like you could have, obviously if it's your commander, right, you can have stuff like put like reassembling skeleton and things like that in your deck, but like, I mean, is Smokestack as your commander that dies to like a stiff breeze, is that really that scary? I mean, it's powerful as a commander, but I don't really feel like you really need to put work into like making it do something. So I don't think that's like a big deal. And obviously, just as part of the 99, it's like fine. It's kind of like although the sacrifice part can backfire on you, right, against any sort of aristocrats sort of style deck. But yeah, I'll say it's basically layout like C plus as banned as a commander, maybe like a C minus or D plus or whatever as part of the 99. I think that the Braids time is long past for being like a super scary, spooky thing, right? Like people actually play removal in their decks, if you can believe it. Mm. Okay, now we got Channel. Channel is interesting here, right? Because what it does is well, kind of ends games too quickly. So not only is there like Eldrazi stuff you can do on turn 2, but you can just drop a bunch of mana rocks and stuff. Like, here's my Thran Dynamo, here's my Gilded Lotus, etc., etc. Like, that seems pretty ridiculous too. So, like, I'm pretty okay with channel being banned. It's not like the most broken thing to do, but like um, it can be, right? It can be, right? It's like, oh, turn 2, here's my Ulamog, here's my Kozilek, you know, here's my Worm Coil Engine, like, good luck, you know, and just like, you know, annihilating literally everyone. That's pretty silly. And that's just the basic stuff off the top of my head. I'm sure there's other broken things you could probably do with channel. So yeah, I think this is perfectly fine being banned. You know, so yeah, we'll just we'll leave this guy where he's at. Obviously, you can do a lot, but obviously there's a little bit where he's like not the most broken thing ever because you can just draw him and like you already have a board developed, you don't have a lot of life, that kind of stuff. Obviously, it's just a one of in your 99. It's hard to consistently get it. So, but when you do have it, typically it's just going to be like, here's my hand, that kind of thing. All right, Chaos Orb, Falling Star. Obviously, I think these should be unbanned for sure. Like, there's only a little bit of like price wise, right? I think, but it would be nice to actually have another format instead of just like old school where you can play Chaos Orb, but like it's not even like it's a fun card, but it's not even like the best thing to be doing because there's so much good removal in any color, including colorless stuff that's like that always does what it says it does, whereas Chaos Orb is just totally random. Like Chaos Orb is cool and old and fun, so that would be sweet. Like no one's gonna anyone that like tries to be like, oh, that was only 11.5 inches or whatever. I mean, just yeah. I think people like that are people you won't be playing with for very long because like those are the kind of people that are not fun, not fun. But yeah, I would say Chaos Orb, Falling Star, totally fine, totally fun. Obviously, price is a little bit of an issue, and like if people try and like make a big deal about like flipping them and stuff, like that's obnoxious. But other than that, like I think these would be fun. I would totally play Falling Star in a deck. Um, I think it's a little expensive. Obviously, Chaos Orb's a lot more expensive, but yeah, I don't think that's a big deal because there's no way like you would ever feel compelled to play Chaos Orb. I need to pay hundreds of dollars to play this card that can actually do nothing sometimes. Not something I think that's a big deal. So all right. So Coalition Victory. This is an F minus minus. Yeah, F minus Zettai, right? That this is so bad. This is such a joke. Like this is how you can tell that the Commander ban list is run by people that are very casual. Obviously, this thing has been on since forever, since the start of the format, I think. But like this is not like it only works if you have a 5 color deck, okay. And you need a bunch of like basically you have to have a bunch of dual lands, right? Then you need you need to have a bunch of a 5 color creature in play or creatures of 5 requisite colors, and this thing has to resolve. And if someone blows up a land, someone kills a creature, these are all very difficult things to do, or counters this spell. I mean, obviously that works for anything, but it's just another thing on top of it where it's like, how is this? I mean, this is just if someone coalitions victory and they win, right? I mean, good for them. Like they must have maneuvered through the entire game, be like, oh boy, here we go. Like, I mean, this is not a spooky card. Like every color can interact with this at like instant speed. I mean, even something like Pyroblast hits it, which is a not uncommon card in a lot of red decks. I mean, obviously, land destruction, creature removal. Um, I mean, this is just this is a joke, right? This has got to be a joke. Like, I can't believe this thing is on here, right? Like, this is yeah, yeah. I wish Golos maybe was on here, right? Instead of this thing, like Golos is just way more ridiculous and leads to way more wins, right, than you'll ever get from something like Coalition Victory. This is just stupid. Yeah, this card's bad, really bad. So yeah, it obviously, this is clearly the worst thing on here, right? This card is garbage. All right, moving on. All right, Emrakul, the Aeons Torn. Uh, I'm gonna be doing, yeah, this is like, I think this is like a B minus for both, right? If you're just playing Emrakul by itself, um, as like a commander, right? Um, I think like sure it's really difficult to interact with, in some respects, but it's also like it's 15 mana. Like, I mean, this feels more like if you can get to 15 mana or whatever, maybe you reveal, you're like, okay, I'm playing Emrakul, and people are like, wait, if this guy can actually get to 15 mana, we might be in trouble, right? If people realize that, you'll probably just be arch enemy or whatever and just get beaten down. Like, this seems like something that's pretty self-regulating. I mean, obviously there's stuff like, if you play it in the 99, there's stuff like bribery, um, or maybe even something like, show and tell or whatever, but to play one from your hand, of course. So, I mean, obviously it's really powerful. It can be difficult to interact with, but I mean, it basically dies to every single wrath. I mean, sure, it's nice that it can't be countered, but I mean, like, I mean, the fact that it comes down so late typically, but there are ways to cheat it out. It can be really powerful. It is pretty snowbally in some respects, like, um, but on the other hand, against a lot of decks like token style decks that with just a pile of permanents in play, when this thing hits, I mean, sure, they'll take 15, sack 6 things, and then like, is that enough, right? Like, are you are you now arch enemy? I mean, so I'm I'm not like, I think this one's a little bit harder to gauge, especially since I haven't played with this card in a really long time. I'm trying to remember if it was even like ever not banned. Ooh, gosh, that was a long time ago. But anyways, yeah, I'm a little unsure. It's obviously very powerful. It is, like pretty ridiculous, but I mean, you have to work pretty hard if you're casting this in a fair way. I mean, obviously green decks can, just slam infinity mana, but I mean, this is like, it's better than probably, something like Ulamog or Kozilek or whatever, in most cases, right? Because you time walk and then you can untap and, attack immediately. So, this one's a little bit harder for me. It is obviously really powerful, but I think it's just pretty overstated. Like, not that spooky, right? Okay. So yeah, now we got Erayo. Um, this card definitely has a kind of a wonky rating, right? I think as part of the 99, Erayo's not particularly good. But as a commander, it could be really obnoxious. Obviously, that was the reason why it was banned, was you just flip it too easy, and you know, then your opponents basically can't do too much about it, since it becomes like an enchantment, and that's just fairly difficult to deal with, especially if you're getting your first spell countered every turn. So as part of the 99, it's like whatever, not a big deal. And I guess if it is your commander, you can build your deck around it to consistently flip it very early. Um, I mean, I guess that seems annoying, but it seems like it would create like situations where you just become the arch enemy. So I guess it's I think it'd be better if it was banned as a commander. I think that would be okay, but just in general, I think that's like silly. I think it's silly and doesn't make a lot of sense to be like, oh, you can't play this random card, you're 99. Like, sure, you're up to no good, but it's a lot harder to flip, obviously, when you don't always have access to it. And, if it's later on in the game, like, whatever, that's not that big of a deal. So, yep. All right, Fastbond. This one is definitely a perfect rating, a perfect card for this rating, because C is just sort of like, okay, this is really powerful. Obviously, Fastbond has combos with Zoran Orb, Crucible of Worlds, and like stuff like fetch lands, stuff like Strip Mine, obviously Strip Mine, Wasteland, Ghost Quarter, all of these things. So you can gain infinite life and destroy all the lands, that kind of stuff. So that's obviously pretty powerful. However, Fastbond itself, like, it's not that great. Like, people aren't, um, crawling over each other hand over foot or whatever to play like stuff like Exploration and a lot of those other cards. So like Fastbond by itself can be just kind of like draw it in the mid to late game, and it's kind of just does nothing. so that's not really that good. So yeah, it's like, I mean, is it fine that it's on there? Yeah. Could it come off? Yeah, probably. But I'm not. I'm sort of ambivalent. It's not that big of a deal. Although I love the art on it. Great Mark Poole art with the the old-fashioned looking wizard. But yeah, I mean, there's obviously combos with this, and I guess like if you have this in the early game, you have like 3 or 4 lands on turn one, like that's pretty strong. But that seems like that kind of stuff is pretty unlikely, right? And this it seems like a bad Soul Ring sometimes. So, but sometimes it could be obviously much better. So yeah, I think it's fine as is. Um, yeah. Okay, so now we have Flash. Of course, Flash was banned because of the problems that it caused in competitive EDH. So I think it's fine that it's banned. Obviously, the Flash Hulk deck was basically the only real deck basically to play in competitive EDH. Although their banned announcement sounded like really like, I don't know, like condescending or petulant, or like it was just like it was very strange. Like they worded it in such a way like, oh my gosh, you're lucky we're doing anything for you. Like we don't balance the band list around like competitive EDH or something, but we'll make an exception this one time. I mean, they obviously don't balance the band list around regular Commander either, apparently, because just the ridiculous cards on there. But yeah. Anyways, so yeah, thanks for throwing us a bone, right? Yeah, no one ever did anything fair with Flash. It's flashing out a Hulk, right, and getting Thassa's Oracle or something, or flashing, or well, there's tons of combos, right, with Hulk, but or flashing out like a Rector to get like some other stupid enchantment. So yeah, no one ever played Flash like fairly. It's basically impossible. I mean, not impossible, but like anyone that played Flash is basically playing it unfairly, so it's fine that it's banned. And obviously was too centralizing in competitive circles, so I think that's okay. Again, it's just another wrinkle that, maybe the ban list has to cater to all sorts of different things, all sorts of different reasons, right? So, sometimes it's competitive stuff, sometimes it's casual stuff, and so on. But that's the nature of the format, right? It's trying to cater to all these different peoples and play styles and play groups and power levels and stuff can be tough, but it is what it is. All right, gifts. This card is obviously quite powerful. It's better than intuition, of course, but is it so much better than intuition that it needs to be banned? I mean, it's kind of a head scratcher. I mean, because there's already so many powerful tutors all over the place. Like, whether you have gifts or not, it doesn't really make a difference. Like, oh my gosh, I can search up my 2 different 2-card combos or whatever. I mean, come on, like people are already able to do this like um, fairly consistently as is, right? If they really want to go ham, right, and play their combo decks or whatever particular combos, right? The problem is like if you play too many tutors, this is already an issue. So like whether Gifts Ungiven is banned or not doesn't really make a lot of sense because there's already so many ridiculous tutors in the format that already make games kind of samey, that are, easy to play, very powerful. So it doesn't make a ton of sense like, well, we need to clamp down on tutors. Well, the only way to do that is to get people to not put them in their decks or whatever, like regardless of whether Gifts is banned. So it makes a pretty dumb like card to be banned, I think. But obviously it's very strong. So at least it has that going for it. But I think it doesn't, like if you want to fix the tutor thing, like just have your play group not play like super powerful mega focused decks. I mean, yeah. So, anyways, it's it is what it is. Just another kind of wonky sort of inclusion. At least though, this is no coalition victory. Obviously, Gifts is a very powerful card and has a long history of being a very powerful card. So like, at least it's that. So that's sort of why it gets the B minus rating. All right. Griselbrand, definitely this card is busted, especially since all the black decks are typically your real plan is like Coffers, Urborg, right? So you get your big old mana engine online, and lands are fairly difficult to interact with. So having a huge payoff like Griselbrand or whatever makes a lot of the fair games kind of hard to win, right? Outside of like your opponents doing some sort of combo thing. Like, I think as by itself, right, Griselbrand makes sense for it to be banned. I mean, obviously, like stuff like Necro isn't banned. Like, I mean, and the triple black cost isn't really like a cost. So, I mean, that's kind of weird. I do think, obviously, Griselbrand is better when it's in play than Necropotence, of course, for the most part. I mean, obviously, it's a creature, so it is vulnerable to creature stuff, but so it's a little bit different there. However, like the ability to just draw a pile of cards, it just kind of it's a little confusing, right? It's a little confusing. I mean, it's like, well, then why isn't Necro banned? It's not like that card isn't completely ridiculous, and like anyone that's playing Necro, they're either playing like mono black or it's a multicolor deck, but they have infinite fetches and dual lands and stuff. So it's like, and of course Urborg too. I mean, so like that's not really keeping it in check. So like, why is one banned and the other not? I don't know. I think this makes sense as banned as a commander, just because it's how difficult it is to interact with, how easy it is for mono black decks to just play a mana doubler or Coffers or Urborg, and it feels like it is really centralizing. It is very difficult to just deal with, regardless of whether you're comboing out with Griselbrand or not. So I think I think it's fine being banned either for both, right? Banned as a commander and as part of the 99, because it is so strong. It is pretty ridiculous. Obviously, it's a little slow, right? Because it costs 8 mana, but still, that being said, yeah. So this one's a kind of a tough one, right? Because there's also the whole reanimating it and bribering it and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. Like I said, I think it's probably fine that it's banned. It's obviously a pretty ridiculous card in a 40 life slower format. So, all right. A very recent change. We have Hullbreacher. This one is obviously uh, one of the dumber cards they printed recently for Commander. It's like this was in one of the Commander focus sets, right? Commander Legends. So how is this thing even like? This is just ridiculous. So a 3 mana 3/2 flash, and when your opponent tries to wheel, or when you wheel, you mind twist your opponents and you make a million Lotus Petals and you draw cards. Like, um, uh, okay. This card is unbelievable, and this is like such a huge blowout. Like, it's very balance-esque, right? Um, Obviously, it's a little bit easier to interact with because it's a creature, of course, but like it's so cheap. You can play it in response to your opponent's wheels, obviously your wheels too, of course. So like this is just it's just too ridiculous, like way too ridiculous. So yeah, I'm glad this is banned. I wish I could play it in my pirate deck, of course, because I'm just like, just give me a good pirate. I just want good pirates. But I guess there's a bunch of good pirates, so that's okay. But yeah, this thing, I'm glad it's banned. Good riddance. What a ridiculous card. This is totally silly. All right, Iona is wow. This card is bad. I don't think I've ever seen anyone play this as their commander. It's so bad as a commander, and because I mean you have to play mono white, but it doesn't do anything. It's extremely slow. So like, and it only hoses some stuff, right? Just one color. Um, and you know, there's tons of stuff like O Stone and Disc, things like that that are able to deal with it. I mean, obviously colorless options like Duplicant. So yeah, this thing is this is so bad. Like it's not important. It's not even that good as part of the 99 if you're cheating it out because, like I said, it's not like a an actual good lock piece, right? Because your other opponents have other color spells, and mostly there's a lot of multicolor decks. So like even when you do get it out, its efficacy is limited. So yeah, no thanks. This is a really, really head scratcher. And they put this on like a couple of years ago, I think, and it was still like, I think even then people were like, what is going on? Like, this doesn't make any sense. It's been around forever, and anyways, this thing has never been a problem. Like, this is just silly. Plus, I can't play it in like a cool angel deck. Oh, terrible. All right. Yeah, Karakas does not work in Commander for the obvious reason it's based around playing your legend. So that's really bad. Also, again, more homogenizing of deck lists because this is an auto include in any white deck. Um, and it's ridiculously hard to interact with outside of stuff like Wasteland or Strip Mine, which are, having to play those cards. Oh, you could play a worse card like Field of Ruin or whatever, but still, like, yeah. Anyways, this too hard to interact with. It's too punishing. It would be too ubiquitous. I mean, this thing is obviously not designed with Commander in mind, even though it is from the original Legend set. Yeah, I love Karakas, but it's not a Commander card. Obviously, I don't think I need to say much more. All right, Leovold. Yeah, this card is really, really obnoxious. Like, especially because Bug is like the best color combination. Having this as like a commander is just obnoxious, punishes people for interacting with you. It still does the does the annoying wheel stuff, right? Like Hullbreacher. Obviously, it's a little more telegraphed than that, but um, it won't let your opponent draw more than a card a turn. It cantrips whenever people try and target your stuff, and of course, always having access to it as a commander, I mean, just seems totally ridiculous. And then, like, as a member of the 99, like, obviously, it's probably should even be higher than like a B plus or a B. Like, probably should be like an A. Like, I mean, obviously, there are times when it can come down and it doesn't really matter or do much, but this card is just so um, it's really powerful, right? I mean, it obviously can get swept up in rafts and things like that, so maybe it's not that great, but definitely as a commander, that's this thing is pretty nutty. So yeah, I think we're all glad that this card's banned. It just does way too much, way too much. So, yep. All right. Yeah, limited resources. Um, yeah. So this thing is obviously not designed with multiplayer in mind. Actually, well, it is from Exodus, so back then, like, it probably was designed with multiplayer in mind. They're like, oh yeah, this is fine, right? Like, oh, this isn't that good. Like, Armageddon destroys all lands, right? So, maybe it was, knowing Wizards back then, maybe it was designed for multiplayer. Anyways, it doesn't really work in Modern Commander. The fact that it sticks around, the fact that it can, like, super just hose people, like, this thing is just, yeah, playing on. I mean, this card is just brutal. Like, if it was just like the last line of text and not the first one, like, probably not that big of a deal. But the fact that it forces like sacrifice and everyone just sits on 5 lands, and that's I think it's a little too brutal, right? A little too limiting because like the fun part about Commander is like you should be able to play your big fat things. And I think limited resources just ruin stuff in a lot of the same sort of ways like balance does. I think it's just too powerful. It scales too much, obviously, in multiplayer formats. Um, so yeah, I think this one's fine to be banned. This is just like, or I think it's actually very, very good that it's banned. This card would suck to play against. Like, I can imagine just slowing games down to a crawl and being like really obnoxious, and it can just ruin stuff like really easily, and you don't have to do much work. You just build around it, and yeah. So yeah, glad it's banned. But I love the art though. Great art. All right, Panoptic Mirror. This thing is slow, really slow. Sure, it combos with Time Warp, but I mean that's like 10 mana to like get your combo set up. Uh, Like, yeah. Okay, whatever. Like, who cares? Um, and like anything more expensive than that isn't particularly good, right? So, because it's like a bajillion mana to try and win. So, um, yeah. Yeah, no thanks. It has to, it basically sits around a turn cycle. Um, it's really slow, obviously vulnerable to artifact destruction, of course, and all sorts of stuff. Um, yeah, yeah, no, I'll pass. I mean, sure, it's easy, right, to go Panoptic Mirror, Time Warp, or whatever, or any of the other like 5 mana Time Warps, but yeah. So this is another good C rating, right? Very powerful, but like, I mean, you're gonna have to do a lot of work to really get this to win you the game. It's not like, artifacts can just sit around forever, and this takes so long to get running, and it's easily telegraphed. So like, yeah, good luck on tapping with this thing, or if you don't just get smashed to little pieces, right? Pretty obvious what you're doing. So, anyways, yep. All right, Paradox Engine. This one maybe I I'll have to admit, I never played with this one. Obviously, it's very, very, very good with mana rocks. It's very easy to combo and ruin games like that. Um, Maybe it should be an A, because this card is just so powerful. The fact that it can just go infinite uh, is, pretty easily, right? Or just either way, just produce tons and tons and tons of mana, or give all your creatures vigilance, or being part of a bunch of different combos and stuff. Maybe this one should be an A. I'll say it's B. I haven't played with this one too much, so I'll have to uh, admit my ignorance on this one. But yeah, so it's probably a good thing that it is banned. But I don't know. Haven't played with it, so I couldn't tell you. So I'll just say maybe my secret rating on this one should be question mark, question mark, question mark. All right, Primetime, Sylvan Primordial, sort of the same things. Big recursive, like obviously both give you a ton of mana, but do different things a little bit. Obviously, Primetime gives you way more, like lets you tutor for particular lands, so you can get depth stage or like reward coffers or whatever. And of course, Sylvan Primordial just nukes non-creature permanents and of course ramps out forest for you. Um, so that's good. I mean, obviously these things are very powerful. I don't think they're like super duper mega centralizing. I think. I mean, I play with a ton of Primeval Titan and a little bit of Sylvan Primordial too um, back in the day, and so like it's probably fine. It's banned, but it never really felt like the most ridiculous thing. Like I think a lot of people were just using it to ramp, sometimes get cool utility lands, but um, at least like my play group, right? We were just having fun screwing around. It wasn't anything like always getting my combos and stuff like that. At least with prime time. So yeah, yeah. So a glorified double rampant growth. But obviously this card is very powerful. Some people did use it for those more powerful things. So it's probably fine. It's banned. It's obviously very strong, and definitely again tutors on a stick that do other things, and uh, even when it comes into play, so even if you do kill it afterwards, like they still get value. Like that might be enough, anyways. Same thing with Sylvan Primordial, although it's a little more brutal if it's blinked a lot with like the stupid guy, the Soulbond guy. Yeah, blinking that a bunch is pretty ridiculous. But yeah, obviously very strong, but not the most broken thing on the list. Yeah, Prophet. This one seems a little weird. Like it's obviously really really strong. I guess it's kind of like the Paradox Engine ban, like maybe just does too much for too little. Um, Letting you play all the stuff and on everyone's turn is pretty strong, but I mean, you can already really do that with like Seedborn Muse on taps like your mana rocks and stuff. So it's like, okay. So yeah, Prophet doesn't really. It's fine. It's banned. I guess it can be too strong or something. Obviously, it isn't like the best colors, but um, whatever. I never really had like a problem with it. So yeah. All right. Recurring Nightmare. This one might actually, thinking about it a little bit more, maybe this one should be an A rating. It's just so hard to interact with. Obviously, you can run graveyard removal. I mean, everyone should run at least a couple pieces of graveyard removal in their decks, right? Like a Crypt or something like that, you know, Bojuka Bog or whatever for black decks. But Recurring Nightmare is so difficult to interact with, like, as long as you don't, you know, you don't have like an extra chromosome or something. I mean, you know, like just cast it and then as you have priority, activate it and it goes back to your hand. So it's basically immune to like enchantment destruction and things like that. So as long as you don't let this thing get caught in a sweeper, right? You let it sit out a turn. Um, yeah, this thing is really hard to interact with. It can be very difficult to do anything about it other than like the little bit of graveyard hate that people play. And still it's not hard to reload after like someone does it once, you know. So unless they have something like a Scavenging Ooze that can persistently like pick off everything, it's very difficult to interact with. So I think it's fine that it's banned, even though it's not the most broken thing. Although obviously you can do broken combo stuff with it, like with Whale, right? The Urza Saga Whale, Great Whale. Yeah. So I'm fine that this is banned, even though I really wish I could play it like in a survival kind of deck. That would be fun. All right, Rofellos is really strong. So obviously I think it would be great to be banned as a commander. It had been banned as commander forever. This thing just produces way too much mana. And like once these decks start ramping up to like infinity amounts of mana, like killing him doesn't do anything because then you have even more mana to replay him, and then like you have like it just spirals out of control. So yeah, this guy's too cheap, does too much. So yeah, as a part of the 99, like it's fine. It's obviously very strong, but it sort of like limits the amount of um, non-basic lands you can run, or at least it would have before they printed, you know, the green Urborg. So maybe not, but yeah, banned as a commander, absolutely A++. Probably would be a better rating for that. But in the 99, like it's obviously very strong, but I mean just because it's really strong, I don't think it's like that's enough of a reason to ban it when it's like, you know, it's just whatever then. It's the fact that you can consistently have access to it on turn two like every game. That's the problem. Shahrazad, yeah, this shouldn't be banned, if only because like if someone tries to Shahrazad and then copy it and stuff, like cool, like you can go play a sub game with yourself. Like, I think the rest of the table will just say you win and then not play with you after that. Like, there's no reason for this to be banned. Like, if someone tries to do this at like a random command fest thing or whatever at a random pod, like people are probably just going to like kill the guy out of spite. At least I would. I would definitely convince everyone to just kill him because this is just annoying. If you're just doing it to, I mean, basically the only reason you would play this is to grief people. So like, yeah, yeah. I think we would all be high-fiving each other actually after we killed the guy because it's just like that's just no. You don't do stuff like that. Like it's just a friggin' fun casual commander game and you're playing just stuff to annoy people. Like this is even more obnoxious than something like Grip of Chaos. Yeah, anyways, Shahrazad, no, this shouldn't be banned because anyone that plays it is going to be quickly banned themselves, probably. Alright, Sway the Stars, Worldfire. Again, these cards are garbage. Holy crap. These are so bad. I would not play these ever. Like, they're just. You could say they're griefing cards, but they're too expensive to do anything. I mean, it's really bad. Like, I think at least like Biorhythm, right? You could play around it, you can build around it, you know, and so that would make that a lot better, especially since green is very easy for it to ramp, versus compared to these cards, which are just like garbage. Like no one's going to play them. Like who cares? Like they can't even ruin games because like there's a bajillion mana, right? So no, these cards are bad. Probably should have F- ratings. Sundering Titan. This thing is very strong, but it is 8 mana. And it's not even mass LD until you start blinking it. Um, so yeah, this thing is obviously really strong, but it punishes more people for like just having a pile of dual lands and stuff. So, I mean, that's fine, like, whatever. uh, but yeah, obviously this is really strong, really good to blink, punches people for killing it, and not even killing it, just like, bouncing it even does the same thing, because it's when it leaves the battlefield. So, yeah, very strong, but it costs a lot. So yeah. And like the thing is so big, like once you start blinking it and destroying all the lands, like whatever, the game will end fast enough anyways. So whatever. No biggie. Yeah, Tinker. This one is obviously completely ridiculous. The fact that it's so inexpensive, it gets you combos. And if there's no combos, it just gets like other ridiculous cards. This probably should have been an A plus. There's just, even just random stuff like I have a Darksteel Colossus or whatever, like, because Darksteel Colossus can be difficult to deal with in the early game. Obviously, people will probably get Blightsteel Colossus because it's a little bit better and it just one-shots people. But even just random crap like that, right, is pretty ridiculous on turn. You could even do it on turn one, right, with a Mana Crypt. That's pretty insane. So like I think it's too easy to end games. It makes like the really, really powerful artifact decks even more powerful, which is not really something you want to do, I think. I mean, I don't think those decks are like too like overpowering or whatever, but those decks are already really good, and Tinker's just way too busted, I think. Whereas like, obviously stuff like Demonic Tutor is really strong, but you still have to pay for the card, right? So, yeah, whereas Tinker tutors and is a cost reducer, I think it's very good that it's banned. Because again, just ruins games really, really fast, very, very easily for like no cost, right? Just like a card and an artifact. So yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to do this on like turn one, right? You have all your mana ramp artifacts. Turn two, again, you have stuff like, Island in the Ancient Tomb, and sacking like a random Mox or something. I mean, it's just, or even Seed of Synod, Darksteel Citadel, right? So, yeah. Yeah, I think it's fine. This band's card is a little too strong. A little too strong. Ruins games too easily. I mean, yeah. All right. Academy is basically like everything I said about Tinker, but even better because you can just, it's just harder to deal with. Like, Tinker's a one-shot effect, even though it is like insanely busted. Academy just basically, the fact that you can get it online on turn one, there's piles of really, really good 0 mana artifacts that you can play, 0 and 1 mana artifacts, so you can immediately turn on Academy, and it's just like such a huge advantage early. Like, it's just not even comparable, right, to Gaia's Cradle. I mean, obviously, like, the only place where you can really even play Academy is in Vintage. So yeah, this thing is just way too busted. So everything I said about Tinker applies here. I mean, you could just keep slamming out big, stupid, dumb artifacts. You could play your Sundering Titans, right, if it was unbanned. Yeah, Mindslaver. I mean, just you could do anything. Sky's the limit, and you could do it as fast as like have a ton of crap out, even on like turn two, or even some really busted hands on turn one. Like, too much, too good, way, way too good. I'm glad it's banned. It's sort of like Gaia's Cradle, but not quite, right? So, yeah, trade secrets. Sure, like you can collude, I guess. I mean, I guess that's pretty. I mean, this is just probably just a card that, again, this was actually designed for multiplayer, I think. But as was a lot of cards actually in Onslaught block. But yeah, I think this doesn't really work, I guess. I mean, I've never seen people play this. I guess you can go to like, I think I heard stories about people in the Command Fest, like at GPs or whatever, like, people colluding or whatever in pods and stuff like that. So, yeah, yeah, this is, I mean, actually, it'd probably be even more ridiculous now because if you played like, oh shoot, what's it called? Thassa's Oracle. How did I not think of that? Because it's basically another, if you collude with someone, it's another demonic consultation effect. So yeah, yeah, this is a, I mean, it's weird. It's a weird card. It's kind of banned for weird reasons, almost. I mean, I guess it's okay. It's banned. I have no idea. I've never played against it. I don't know how often this happened. I don't think I've ever seen anyone put it in their deck. Or no, I think it was maybe in like one of the pre-cons, but I think they took it out afterwards because it was just like, I don't want to do this. This isn't good. What a weird card. I don't know. Okay, yeah, this card is this is another card that goes in like the ridiculous blue X artifact decks. Um, Whereas something like Sway of the Stars seems really bad. So not only is Sway of the Stars is significantly more expensive, but you can't really reload after. Um, it's just it's harder. It's basically harder to use, right? Where like Upheaval, like to break the symmetry is not hard. Play a bunch of mana rocks that produce like more than one mana, right? You know, um, and this thing is just so now this is think of like how good Cyclonic Rift is. This is one cheaper. Sure, you can't do it in instant speed, but you don't really want to because what you'd want to do is play it, float a bunch of mana, recast all your crap. And the fact is basically a temporary and or permanent answer to things like, um, well, every permanent in the game that's a problem, right? So you're gonna, those all go back to their hands. They'll have to probably discard a bunch of stuff at some point. Like, Upheaval like puts you like, it's like 8 time walks stapled together or something, like the amount of mana it can produce, the fact that the board changes so rapidly. It's very similar to balance. It's, I mean, obviously it's significantly more expensive and requires more setup, or balance you can just like slam random artifacts and enchantments and stuff that you're already going to play, you know, and that's a little bit easier to set up. But like Upheaval just slots too easily into some decks. It just does too much. It's too hard to stop. Like basically counter this on the stack or you lose. Um, I mean, people who play this in Cube can probably understand the power of it, or I guess if you played it back in like in Type 2 or whatever with like Tog or something. This thing is just too good. It just it does too much. I mean, we've seen the same sort of style of decks in the Artifact Prison decks, you know, the Tinker decks in Old Extended. They played Upheaval, produce a million mana. Upheaval, recast all your scrap. So yeah, yeah, too good. Way, way, way too good. Even though I'd love to play it, but yeah, there's a bunch of stuff on here that's just like, just too insane. Too insane. All right. Bargain obviously is worse than Griselbrand in this respect because it's harder to cheat out and it can't be your commander. And of course it has the pesky, you know, you actually skip your draw step, where Griselbrand you don't. So that's a part of it too. But obviously Bargain is pretty ridiculous, right, in a 40 life format. It doesn't have all the weird anti-reanimation clause on it like Necro does, but I mean, Necro's just so much easier to cast. Like, if you have a somewhat competent mana base or you're playing mono black, like, you can play it all the time on turn 3, right? If you have it, right, drawn or whatever. And then, of course, even earlier with like a ritual or other mana rocks or whatever. So, like, it's weird that Necro's not banned, but Bargain is. I don't know, because it's a lot harder to cheat stuff out, even though, of course, there's a lot of mana ramp and stuff, but, like, the same thing does with Necro, and of course you can't even get, like, for example, Necro is even easier to cheat out because of like Zur. You know, Zur can get Necro. So I mean, they should all probably just be banned, right? I mean, if we're trying to be consistent, like, it's nice to have a format where you can play Necro that's not like vintage. But like, if Necro's okay, then why isn't Bargain okay, or vice versa? That's really inconsistent. But both these cards are obviously pretty ridiculous and scale pretty insane when you have 40 life. So, I mean, wow, real insights here, real insights that you're getting, I know. So that's it, guys. I'm glad you got some big brain takes. So yeah, pretty sweet. I hope you enjoyed this. It was a little bit longer than I wanted, but yeah, definitely pretty interesting to look at. There's a lot of really bad stuff on there that's really head scratching. Some stuff that I can think probably come off, and then there's stuff like Prime Time that's probably better that it stays on, but not sure, not sure. Obviously Commander's changed a lot since some of these cards were banned, but oh well, who knows? Who knows what's going on? So anyways, I thought this was kind of fun. Just wanted to look at it and think about these cards a little bit. So yeah. So thanks for stopping by, guys, and have a great day.